The courtroom was not typical. It was a battlefield. Spectators sat in hushed rows, passing glances of incredulity. The air was filled with the scent of paper, coffee, and tension. On the left sat Meri Brown, composed yet visibly shaking, her hands clasped around a small locket, a photo of her younger self with Kody, back when everything still felt real. Beside her, Christine and Janelle sat quietly, their eyes red but determined. They weren't just here for Meri, they were here for justice. To his right, Kody readjusted his costly suit jacket, attempting to keep up that comfortable veneer of control. But his eyes gave him away. He wasn't the same cocky guy who used to sermonize national unity on television. He was backed into a corner. And he knew it. Behind him, an empty chair stood where Robin should have been. The world noticed her absence. Some whispered she was avoiding the cameras. Others claimed she had fled after the investigation began. The judge entered, her black robe flowing like a wave of authority. "All rise," the bailiff commanded. Everyone stood. Mary's knees trembled, but she didn't falter. When they sat, the judge put on her glasses and stared straight at the woman in front of her. "Mrs. Brown, you can continue." Mary's voice, the weight of years. Meri breathed slow and deep. She rose to her feet, her heart thudding like thunder in her chest. The courtroom lights felt like spotlights. The walls constricting. She wasn't so much about to reveal a falsehood. She was going to rip apart years of manipulation, gaslighting, and deception. "Your Honor," she started quietly, her voice breaking under the strain. "For over 2 decades I had faith in a family based on trust, love, and loyalty. But off camera, off mic, there were secrets." The audience grumbled. Kody squirmed. Meri went on, her voice strengthening. "Years I waited by Kody's side. Humiliation, loneliness, broken promises. I stuck up for him when the world criticized us. I trusted him when he promised we were equal. That love was distributed evenly among all wives. But what if I told you, Your Honor, that equality was just a script, one written by him, to keep us quiet?" The judge leaned forward a fraction. "Go on, Mrs. Brown." Kody's reaction. The man under fire. Kody took a sharp breath, muttering something to his lawyer. His face flushed. "This is rubbish," he muttered loudly enough for some to overhear. Meri tuned him out. She opened a folder, heavy with documents, photos, and receipts. For years Kody Brown presented himself as a committed husband and father. But the reality, Your Honor, is that he lived a double life. Financially, emotionally, and ethically. The courtroom murmured once more. The judge held up a hand. "Order." Christine shot a look at Janelle under her breath, saying, "She's doing it. She's finally telling them." Janelle nodded, her eyes welling up with tears. Meri stepped forward again. "I didn't want to be here. I didn't want this to turn into a circus. But I have to tell the truth. Because the man sitting there made his fortune off our suffering." Her words landed like lightning. Kody hammered his pen against the table. "Your Honor, this is defamation. Mr. Brown, you will stay silent until spoken to." The judge reprimanded. The courtroom fell into murmured gasps. The flashback, how it all began. Mary's eyes drifted for a moment. Back to the beginning. Back to the dusty streets of Lehi, Utah, where the Browns' story began. She remembered the laughter, the shared meals, the long nights when they prayed together. They believed they were living God's plan. But things changed when the cameras arrived. TLC turned their story into entertainment. And Kody turned fame into power. He adored the limelight. He adored being the guy everybody wanted to figure out. But along the way, in the fame and wealth, he lost his role as a husband and became a monarch. He made unilateral decisions. Moved the family to Arizona without consulting anybody. Purchased homes, sold property, managed money, all while talking about unity. Meri recalled one evening with clarity. She had asked him why family money was going down. He smiled and said, "Don't worry about the money, Meri. Just trust me." She did, until she couldn't anymore. Back to the courtroom. The pressure mounts. Mary's lawyer, a calm woman named Miss Callahan, stood up. "Your Honor, what Mrs. Brown is about to reveal has been verified by investigators and financial experts." Kody's attorney scoffed, whispering, Baseless. But the judge raised an eyebrow. Proceed. Meri took a small USB drive. Within emails, bank statements and voice recordings would later play in front of the court. But for the moment, all were listening to her words. Kody Brown has misled his family and the public, she declared. Her voice steadier now. He said we were equal, yet he secretly transferred property, took funds and set up accounts of which none of us were aware. The audience collectively gasped. Kody's attorney sprang up. Objection, speculation. Overruled. The judge responded quickly. Meri went on. This isn't about money, Your Honor. This is about betrayal. This is about the years we invested in him, the lives we've constructed around him, while he was scheming to steal it all from us. Kody's face was red now. Knuckles clenched tight. Meri, this is folly, he whispered. But she did not cease. Not this time. The media frenzy. The world watches outside the courtroom. Sister Wives viewers were waiting in groups, brandishing signs that read, Justice for Meri. Kody's lies exposed. Team Christine forever. Humia's trucks parked along the street. Reporters were broadcast live hourly. Social media hashtags such as #KodyExposed and #TruthBehindTheBrown family trended globally. Inside, however, none of that concerned Meri. This wasn't about revenge or fame. It was about peace. Something she hadn't known in years. As she stood before the judge, her voice cracked once more. I loved him, she spoke softly. I stood up for him when others said we were odd. I believed in him when others taunted us. But he never believed in me. To him I was merely a placeholder. The courtroom fell silent. Even Kody seemed taken aback. The impact of her words striking deeper than any charge possibly could. The judge's observation. The turning point. The judge finally addressed her. Mrs. Brown, the court will review all evidence submitted. But for the moment, I have to ask you, what do you expect to receive from this hearing? Meri looked down, then back at him, tears welling in her eyes. Not money, Your Honor. Not revenge. I just want the truth on record. I want the world to know who he truly is. Because we lived the lie long enough. The judge slowly nodded, impressed with her calmness. She then addressed Kody. Mr. Brown, do you have anything you'd like to say? Kody leaned into his mic, gritting a forced smile. With all due respect, Your Honor, it's an act. These women are resentful, because they couldn't cope with the family dynamics. They're manipulating history to portray me as a villain. Meri's lips compressed, but she remained silent. The judge jotted down a note. Then we shall allow the evidence to speak, she declared firmly. The storm begins. As the gavel came down, indicating a brief recess, the courtroom erupted into bedlam. Reporters ran down the aisle. Lawyers muttered angrily. Kody stormed out of the room, his attorney following after him. Meri sat back down again, taking deep breaths, her hands trembling. Christine squeezed her shoulder. You did it, she whispered. Meri shook her head slowly. No, this is only the beginning. For in the follow-up session, when evidence was played, Kody Brown's nicely constructed image would finally fall apart for good. And for the very first time, the world would get to see the true Kody Brown, not the dashing TV husband, but the man behind the makeup. When Meri first met Kody Brown, he was young, high energy, and talked about love as if it were a crusade. He said to her, Meri, I don't believe in boundaries. I believe in creating something that's forever. His words seemed heavenly at the time. They envisioned a family built on faith, integrity, and trust, one that sidestepped the laws of the world outside. And for a brief time it succeeded. Meri recalled their wedding day with clarity. They had little, 2 hearts, and the common belief that their love was part of something bigger than them. But Kody's plans were large. He explained that God had informed him that his love was not for one woman. It was intended to grow, to encompass others. And when he introduced Janelle, then Christine, and then Robin into the family, Meri convinced herself it was all part of their mission. They smiled for the camera. They preached love and tolerance. But behind that light of the camera loomed a darkening shadow. The cracks under the smiles. As the years passed, the family was well known. TLC made an episode out of their lives, their house out of a stage. To the world, Kody was a self-assured husband who walked a line between love and leadership. To the wives, he was a man whose love had terms and conditions. Meri's voice, now talking inside her head, said what viewers never heard. There were days I felt invisible, she told herself in the courtroom. Days when my smile was just part of the script. Christine's laughter once filled the kitchen. Janelle quietly managed the bills. The children played, blissfully unaware of the tension behind each closed door. But then Robin came on the scene. Robin wasn't merely another wife. She was the favorite. Kody's visits to her house became more frequent. His smiles were warmer, his voice softer. He spoke proudly of her. Meri attempted to remain firm, reminding herself that jealousy was the devil's whisper. But each time she saw Kody leave her doorstep, she felt her heart shatter a little more. Money, control, and fear. Then the money meetings arrived. Kody began to do everything. The family finances, business transactions, property acquisitions. He said it was for everyone's good. But soon there was only one person who knew where the money really went. Meri remembered one evening, the memory so clear she could smell the coffee. She had gone into Kody's office, requesting explanation for a bill that didn't add up. Kody didn't glance up from his computer. "Meri, I've got it under control," he said with determination. "But it's our money," she said quietly. "Shouldn't we all get a say?" He let out a dramatic sigh. "You don't trust me anymore, do you?" Those words cut deeply, because trust was the only thing she had ever handed over to him, even when he didn't deserve it. She cried that night. She went to bed sobbing. And as the world outside witnessed a beaming couple on television, behind closed doors, Meri lay awake speculating why her husband had become a stranger. The other wives began to notice. Christine was the first to realize it. "Meri, something's wrong," Christine whispered one night, while they sat on the porch. "Kody doesn't even look at us the same way anymore." Meri said nothing in the beginning, but when she did, her voice was as fragile as glass. "I know, I just keep hoping it's a phase." Janelle, the pragmatic one, had seen the numbers not adding up. "The business accounts," she told him one morning, waving a spreadsheet in the air. "Money's gone, Meri. Thousands." When they questioned Kody, he waved it off with his customary charm. "It's all tied up in family ventures. Don't fret about it." But fretting was all they could do, because when Christine attempted to begin a small bakery with her daughters, the money was unavailable. When Janelle required assistance paying off Coyote Pass property, Kody instructed her to be patient. But somehow, Robin's house, the priciest of them all, was paid in full. Meri felt sick to her stomach whenever she considered it. Something didn't feel right, really wrong. Fame turns to fire. Money came with fame, and with money came control. Kody loved the cameras. He loved the interviews, the spotlight, the authority it gave him. He told the world he was misunderstood, that he was just trying to hold a large family together. But behind the lens, he was building walls, emotional ones that separated him from everyone except Robin. At family meetings, he dismissed the other wives' opinions. When Christine voiced her exhaustion, Kody snapped, "You're being dramatic." When Janelle inquired about the shared accounts, he responded, "You don't understand business." And when Meri at last explained to him that she felt abandoned, he spoke words she'd never forget. "I can't be romantic with someone who doesn't make me feel safe." Safe? She had given him her whole life, her faith, her dignity. And now, he was remaking the script, to turn her into the villain. The breaking point. It was a chilly morning, when Meri discovered the envelope. It was stuck under her front door, sealed but not stamped. She initially believed it was another fan letter. Folks sent mail, both loving and hateful. But when she opened it, her life came to a halt, and inside were bank statements. Not their family account, but a secret one. The account was held by Robin S. Brown, and the payer was Kody W. Brown. The transactions were straightforward, hefty deposits, routine transfers, property titles being transferred. The very properties that Kody had informed the family were still in negotiations were already paid for. Everything in Robin's name. Meri's heart pounded so hard she thought she might faint. The truth was right there in black and white. She called Christine immediately. "Christine, he's been moving everything into Robin's name." There was silence on the other end, followed by a whisper. "I knew it." From that moment, everything changed. The decision to fight back. Meri could have been quiet. She was always the peacekeeper, after all. But this wasn't a matter of pride. This was a matter of years of manipulation and lies. She collected it all: receipts, screenshots, bank histories, messages, and even voice recordings, where Kody swore equal sharing. She conspired with Janelle and Christine in secret. Inside that still kitchen, three women once united by their shared husband were now united in one purpose: justice. Christine put her hand on Meri's. "If you do this," she told her, "there's no going back." Meri glared at her. "There's nothing to go back to." That evening, she wrote the first email to an attorney. By morning, the case had commenced. Back to the present, the calm before the next storm today. As the courtroom clock ticked away, Meri sat in silence, replaying the years that brought her here. She could hear Kody whispering angrily to his lawyer, could see the judge reviewing her notes, could feel the weight of the world pressing on her shoulders. But she was no longer afraid. The perfect family the world once admired was an illusion. Behind every smiling episode, there were tears. Behind every were one big family, there were secrets. And now, those secrets were evidence. Meri raised her eyes and gazed across the courtroom at Kody, the man who had vowed her eternity, now battling to defend falsehoods. He sensed her gaze and averted his face. For the first time, Kody Brown, the man with all answers, had none. The judge's voice cut through the silence. "Court will resume in 10 minutes. Meri shut her eyes. Her heart ached still, but her determination was unbreakable. This wasn't her story anymore. It belonged to Christine's, Janelle's. It belonged to every woman who'd ever been shouted down and made to trust when her instincts yelled otherwise. The court was about to regather, as Meri muttered under her breath, "No more lies, Kody. Not today." Because the next chapter, the courtroom face-off, was where the truth would finally come out. The courtroom lights flashed gently, as everyone took their seats back. The tension had thickened. You could feel it in every part of the room. The onlookers leaned forward, journalists adjusted the mics, and the Brown family sat in solemn silence. Kody arrived last in the room. His face was red, his jaw clenched, and his lawyer leaned over to whisper something in his ear that caused him to shake his head in anger. For a man who'd spent decades dictating every script, this was a scene he could not write his way out of. Meri sat straight-backed, serene but inscrutable. On the table in front of her lay the folder, heavy with proof. Each page stood for something Kody never wished to have revealed. The judge sat down. "Court is now back in session. Mrs. Brown, you may continue." Meri's lawyer, Miss Callahan, rose. "Your Honor, we'd like to enter the financial records into evidence. These documents prove Mr. Brown intentionally transferred shared family assets into a private account, solely in the name of his fourth wife, Robin Sullivan Brown." The room erupted in whispers. Kody's lawyer shot up immediately. "Objection. These records were obtained without proper consent. They are private." "Overruled," the judge said firmly. "Proceed, Miss Callahan." "The confrontation begins," Meri breathed in, as the first evidence flashed up on the projector. The screen came alive with rows and rows of bank transfers, thousands flowing in over months. Every line of figures hit like a body blow to the chest. "Kody Brown," Miss Callahan started, pacing slowly. "These transfers have been made throughout the same months that your shared family accounts showed severe deficiencies. Can you tell me anything about these transactions?" Kody smiled. "It's called financial planning. I was pooling money for the family's future." "Then why?" Miss Callahan rebutted. "Were all the funds transferred to an account in only Robin Brown's name?" Silence. Kody's bravado crumbled, his tongue against his cheek, a tell everyone knew from the show when he was trapped. He spoke at last. "Because Robin was covering some costs. I trusted her to do it." Christine whispered from the balcony. "Of course he did." The judge looked up. "No interruptions, please." The moment the lies unravel, Meri couldn't contain herself anymore. She rose up suddenly, feeling emotional as she spoke. "You trusted her, Kody. What about the rest of us? We trusted you." The courtroom came to a standstill. Her voice wasn't angry. It was raw, wounded, powerful. "You said we were equals," she went on, her eyes brimming with tears. "You stood there in front of our children and said you'd never leave any of us behind. And now here we are, fighting for what's ours. while you sit there acting like this was all just business. Kody tried to speak, but the judge raised a hand. Mr. Brown, you will wait until you are addressed. The silence that followed was suffocating. Meri sat down, her chest heaving. Christine reached out and squeezed her hand. Miss Callahan went on quietly. Your Honor, this is not financial fraud. This is decades-long emotional and psychological manipulation. We have proof that Mr. Brown has used his spiritual leadership to control, to intimidate, and to silence his wives. Kody's attorney spat. That's ridiculous. But Miss Callahan advanced to the next slide. A transcript of texts. In one, Kody penned to Meri. You don't have to know everything. Have faith in me and remain in your place. Another to Christine said. You're creating discord. I can't bless what you're doing if you continue to second-guess me. The room gasped. The judge scowled. Mr. Brown, did you send these? Kody shifted uncomfortably. Those were personal spiritual discussions out of context. Miss Callahan snapped back quickly. They were taken from his public telephone records. Your Honor, the same telephone he used to call about financial transfers. The courtroom erupted once more. The breaking point for Christine. Christine had had enough. She got to her feet, her voice shaking but adamant. Your Honor, may I say something? The judge paused, but nodded. Briefly, Christine stepped forward, facing Kody. For years we called you our leader. You told us God chose you to guide this family. But you weren't guiding us, you were using us. You made us believe we were selfish for wanting love, for asking questions, for needing respect. Kody glared. Christine, don't do this. She stood there, ignoring him. You told me my marriage didn't work, because I wasn't spiritual enough. You made me believe I was the reason you slept away at night. But the truth is, you were just with her. Always her. Robin's name lingered like a curse. Christine wept. You destroyed us, Kody. You destroyed this family. The gavel came down. Order. I will have order in this court. Christine sat back down, shaking, and Meri put an arm around her. For the first time, Kody's cocky mask slipped. His mouth quivered. His eyes flicked toward the reporters in the front row. He knew the headlines were already being written. The lawyer's final strike. Miss Callahan stepped to the center of the room, her voice firm and unyielding. Your Honor, this is not a man of faith. This is a man of control. He used religion to keep his wives silent, and celebrity to conceal his greed. The facts demonstrate that in more than 2 years he routed almost $400,000 into hidden accounts, leaving the remainder of the family economically stranded. Kody's attorney sprang up once more. Speculation, not speculation, Miss Callahan interrupted. Fact. She put a third document on the table. Notarized deeds and computer records connecting Kody directly to property transactions under Shell Corporation. The judge's eyebrows arched. Mr. Brown, whose signatures are these? Kody's pause was telling. They seem to be mine. The judge let out a deep sigh. You realize what this implies, don't you? Kody remained quiet. His hands shook faintly, the first noticeable sign of defeat. The emotional collapse. Meri studied him intensely. For an instant she nearly pitied him. Nearly. This was the man she'd once thought she believed in. The father of her child. The husband she'd fought for against the world. She'd spent years telling herself he was misunderstood, that he was shouldering too much weight. But now, watching him backed into a corner, she saw something painful but liberating. He wasn't burdened. He was manipulative. And he'd loved every moment of the control he'd had over them. Tears flooded in her eyes, as she spoke softly to Christine and Janelle. He wasn't the man we thought he was. Christine merely nodded. Kody's outburst. The silence was broken when Kody suddenly leapt to his feet. His attorney attempted to grab him back, but Kody erupted. Do you think you're all so innocent? He raged, gesturing towards Meri. You all exploited me too. You enjoyed the fame, the fortune, the limelight. Don't pretend that you were victims. The judge banged her gavel. Mr. Brown, sit down immediately or you will be expelled from this courtroom. But Kody was not listening. His tone increased to a higher, more furious pitch. You betrayed me. All of you. You made our personal lives into soap opera for the cameras. You think you can steal my money, my family, my name. Mr. Brown, The judge's voice thundered. That's enough. At last Kody quieted down. Gasping for breath, his face red, he collapsed into his chair. The whole courtroom sat in shock. Even the reporters fell silent. The mighty Kody Brown, the man who once demanded control over 4 wives, now looked like a child caught lying. The turning of the tide. Miss Callahan calmly turned back to the judge. Your Honor, that outburst says more than any document ever could. The judge nodded, scribbling notes. Indeed, we'll proceed with a full review of the evidence tomorrow. This court is adjourned for today. She struck the gavel. As individuals started exiting, Kody remained seated, his face in his hands. There were no cameras grinning in his face for the first time in years. No wives comforting him. No crowd applauding. Silence and reality. Meri collected her papers. Her heart was heavy but unbreakable. Christine turned to her. You did it, Meri. You made him answer. But Meri shook her head. Not yet. The truth's out, but justice hasn't been served. Not until every lie is seen for what it is. They emerged together, through the flashes and confusion of the waiting media. The journalists yelled questions. Meri, do you believe Kody will be guilty? Christine, are you happy with today's hearing? Meri didn't reply. She just looked straight ahead and muttered to herself. He taught us to remain quiet. Now the world is going to hear everything. The cliffhanger. That evening news networks replayed Kody's meltdown over and over again. Social media went wild with clips and quotes. #Kody meltdown was trending for hours. Even Robyn's no-show made headlines. Where was she? Was she hiding, or plotting her own exit? At the same time, in her own peaceful home, Meri sat by her window, looking up at the night sky. The trial was finished for the day, but tomorrow would come the verdict. And perhaps finally peace. For years Kody Brown thought he could warp truth, love and loyalty to his bidding. But the truth doesn't lie hidden forever. And in the court of life, even the strongest man has to reckon with the burden of his own deception. The next morning, the courthouse was filled. Every chair filled, every camera set. Folks hushed as they anticipated the storm to resume. The last night's headlines had already circulated like wildfire. Kody Brown's meltdown in court. Meri Brown reveals family secrets. But no one had been ready for what next came. Meri was first, steadfast, but calm. Her dark business suit was plain, beautiful, a soft indication of power. Christine and Janelle came behind her, standing like silent guardians of fact. Then Kody. His previously golden blonde hair was tousled, his suit creased, his eyes red-rimmed from sleeplessness. There was no bravado remaining, only defiance. He shunned all eyes as he sat next to his attorney. The sole absentee was Robyn Brown. The judge enters, all rise, the bailiff exclaimed. The judge seated herself, thumbing through the file. We are here today to resume proceedings in the case of Brown versus Brown, on charges of financial misbehavior, emotional abuse, and misrepresentation of marital property by fraud. She glanced up at Kody. Mr. Brown, are you ready to proceed? Kody nodded rigidly. Yes, Your Honor. Very well, said the judge. Miss Callahan, continue. The bombshell evidence. Miss Callahan strode to the middle of the courtroom with a single brown envelope in her hand. Your Honor, we have one last piece of evidence, she said, sounding calm but with a razor-sharp edge. This new evidence materialized late last night. It concerns communications between Mr. Brown and a private financial consultant named Michael Trent, an individual who was secretly compensated by way of Robyn Brown's business account. Kody's attorney instantly protested. We have not seen this evidence. The judge raised a hand. You will have time to respond. Proceed. Miss Callahan opened the envelope and held up a series of printed emails. These emails show that Mr. Brown and Mr. Trent created multiple shell companies to move funds from family property sales into offshore accounts. We're talking about over $800,000 in hidden assets, all taken after he convinced his wives that the family was struggling financially. The courtroom gasped. Kody's attorney rose. That's not true. These emails are taken out of context. But Miss Callahan didn't desist.
Your Honor, please take note of the date. 2 weeks before Meri sought legal separation, he moved $120,000 into an account called Cobalt Sun Holdings, and the authorized user, Robin Brown. The judge shifted her glasses. Mr. Brown, is this true? Kody hesitated. I don't remember that transaction. Then let's refresh your memory. Miss Callahan said coldly. She pressed play on a recording. The room fell silent as Kody's voice filled the speakers. Robin, it's done. No one will trace it. The others think the account's empty. Let's keep it that way. It's better if Meri never knows. Gasps echoed around the courtroom. Mary's hand covered her mouth. Christine's face went pale.
Even the judge froze for a moment. Kody's attorney sprang to his feet. That recording was illegally obtained. Miss Callahan cut in. It was legally obtained via a court-order subpoena of Mr. Trent's devices. The judge addressed Kody. Mr. Brown, do you not acknowledge this is your voice? Kody's lips quivered. No, Your Honor. The words hung heavily, in the form of a confession. Mary's breaking silence. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Brown, would you like to make a statement before I make any rulings? Meri stood, voice steady but with passion. Your Honor, we were always instructed to keep quiet, that words would ruin our family, our religion, our reputation. But the reality is, we were already ruined by our silence. She gazed at Kody, squarely, unflinching. Shame on you, Kody. You used our trust. You said we were creating something holy, but the only thing you created was a lie. You stole our money, our dignity, and our faith, and you gave it to the one person you couldn't control yourself. Her voice trembled. I used to pray for this man. Now I pray no one else ever believes in a man like him. The courtroom remained in stunned silence. Even the reporters put down their cameras, momentarily, out of respect. Kody's last defense. Kody finally stood up. His attorney whispered to him, "Don't do it," but he paid him no mind. He faced the judge, his face red with rage and desperation. You all behave like I'm the bad guy here, he complained. But do you have any idea what it's like to support a family this size? 4 wives going in 4 different directions? I gave up everything for them. I created a spectacle, a brand, a name, and this is how they thank me? He gestured towards Meri and Christine. You craved fame just as much as I did. You enjoyed the cameras when they flattered you. Don't play holy now. Meri didn't even blink. Christine merely shook her head. Kody thumped his hand on the table. I didn't steal from you. I made that money, I earned it. The gavel fell. Enough. Mr. Brown, you will compose yourself or I will find you in contempt. Kody stood transfixed. His breathing labored. His eyes scanned wildly, like a man who'd lost everything. The sudden entrance at that very moment, the doors at the rear of the courtroom burst open. Everyone's head turned. Robin Brown stepped into the courtroom. She wore black sunglasses, her face unreadable. The cameras began snapping immediately. Kody's expression shifted from anger to shock. Robin, what are you doing here? Robin walked slowly forward, taking off her glasses. I'm here to tell the truth. Kody's attorney jumped up frantic. Your Honor, we were not notified. The judge held up a hand for silence. Mrs. Brown, you may proceed. Robin drew a deep breath. Her hands shook, but her voice did not. Kody's telling the truth about one thing, she began. He did build the family brand, but he also built it on lies. He told me to move the money, to hide it. He said if Meri or the others ever left, he'd teach them a lesson they'd never forget. The courtroom went dead silent. Kody's jaw dropped. Robin, stop. You're twisting everything. Robin glared at him, tears streaming down her face. No, Kody, you manipulated me. She faced the judge. I'm finished enabling him. He asked me to burn papers, to erase emails. I did it because I thought he was telling me the truth when he said it was for the family. But it was only for him. The whole courtroom exploded. Reporters stood up, flashes blinding. Kody hid his face, repeating, "No, no, no." The collapse. The judge pounded her gavel until silence fell. Order? I will have order in this court. She addressed Kody, her voice cold and absolute. Mr. Brown, The evidence here today, including the confession by Mrs. Robin Brown, unequivocally establishes intent to hide marital assets and commit fraud. I will be referring this case for criminal investigation. Kody's attorney attempted to protest, but his voice was overwhelmed by gasps and whispers. Kody's shoulders dropped. His face went pale. His hands shook as the truth hit him. His was no longer a scandal. It was the end. Meri sighed, years of suffering exiting her body with the one breath. Christine closed her eyes, her voice barely above a whisper. It's finally over. The end of the empire with court adjourning. Cameras swirled around the Brown family. Kody was walked out by deputies to be questioned. Robin trailed quietly, crying, but her expression held relief, like a woman who had finally escaped from her own deception. Outside, the reporters descended on Meri. How do you feel now that today's ruling has been made? What's next? Meri stared directly into the cameras and simply stated, year after year we lived a tale that was not our own. But now we penned our own conclusion. She turned away, the courthouse steps shining in the sunlight of the afternoon. The final scene that evening, Kody sat by himself in a cramped, dark hotel room. The din of the day echoing inside his head. His phone rang constantly with missed calls and texts, but he didn't return any. On television, news anchors analyzed his collapse. Once the face of family faith and polygamy, Kody Brown now stands under scrutiny for allegations of fraud and emotional abuse. He turned down the volume, gazing at himself on the black TV screen. For the first time in his life, he wasn't enveloped by wives, cameras, or followers. Only silence, and in that silence he whispered to himself, they'll regret this, all of them. The last day of the trial came like the quiet after the storm. But everyone in the courthouse knew, this was just the silence before the knockout punch. Reporters had been camping outside since dawn. Sister Wives fans waved signs, some with justice for Meri, and others with pray for the Browns. The world had already decided. Inside the courtroom, it was wall-to-wall tension. No one uttered a word. No one had the courage to. Meri was in the front row, hands tightly clasped together. Christine sat next to her, forward-facing, quiet but firm. Janelle was present as well, far away, but firm. Kody arrived last, accompanied by his attorney. Gone was his proud walk. His face appeared sunken, his eyes far away. Even Robin wasn't sitting next to him now. She sat behind the witness rail, her head down, not looking at him. When the judge came in, everyone stood. She sat down, settled her robe and surveyed the room with quiet authority. The verdict begins. Having considered the testimony, documents and evidence submitted, the judge started. This court holds clear evidence of intentional hiding of marital property, manipulation by coercion, and exploitation under the guise of spiritual leadership. The courtroom fell completely silent. Kody swallowed hard. His hands quivered slightly on the table. The judge went on, her voice stern and unflinching. Kody Brown is hereby adjudicated guilty of fraudulent misrepresentation of marital property and interference with financial disclosure. Restitution shall be made in the sum of $820,000 to the combined estate of Meri, Christine, and Janelle Brown. The gasp from the audience was stunned. Kody slouched forward, muttering something to his attorney, but the attorney merely shook his head. There was nothing more to be said. The fallout reporters dashed from the courtroom, yelling news into their phones. Social media erupted once more within minutes. #Kody Brown verdict trended across the world. Inside, tension melted to bittersweet relief. Meri shut her eyes as tears dripped down her cheeks. Not tears of sadness, but of release. Years of silence, fear, and humiliation dissipated in that instant. Christine reached over and grasped her hand. You did it, Meri. We all did. Meri softly nodded. We didn't win for revenge. We won for freedom. Quietly, Robin started to cry behind them. The woman who had stood up for Kody was the one now bringing his lies to light. While Kody was led away by the bailiff for questioning, Robin mumbled quietly, I'm sorry. He did not turn around. The press conference, a sea of microphones, lined the sidewalk outside the courthouse. Cameras focused in, as Meri came onto the platform, accompanied by Christine and Janelle. Her voice was calm, her tone strong but soft. This isn't about money or fame, she started. It's about truth. For years we thought we believed in a different story. We took pictures with cameras. We covered up our pain. And we lied about it all. Because that's what we were told to do. But the truth is, silence doesn't heal. It kills. If you're seeing this, and you've ever been too scared to speak your truth, this is for you. Don't wait until it's too late. The truth may shatter you, but it will liberate you. The audience clapped. Even the journalists were visibly moved. Christine wiped away a tear. Janelle nodded with pride. For the first time, they stood not as co-wives, not as broken shards of a man's dream, but as survivors. Meanwhile, Kody's downfall across town. Kody sat in a small holding room, looking at the wall. He could hear the news anchors through the small TV in the corner. Kody Brown found guilty. The polygamy patriarch faces financial ruin. Robin Brown's testimony seals the verdict. His jaw tightened. They turned on me, he muttered. All of them. He slammed his fist against the table, but the sound was hollow, like the echo of a man fighting ghosts. His lawyer entered quietly. They're offering a settlement deal. You'll have to forfeit your property in Flagstaff, and part of your media royalties. Kody's eyes narrowed. They'll take my name, but they won't take my legacy. The lawyer sighed. There is no legacy left, Mr. Brown. Kody didn't respond. He just stared at the window, watching the reporters outside chant Meri's name. Meri's new beginning weeks later. The world had moved on. The trial was over. The chaos was fading. But for Meri, life was just beginning again. She stood outside her small new inn, a warm rustic place in Utah. She had renamed the Phoenix House. It represented renewal. From the ashes rising. Within, the walls were filled with pictures of her life. Not from sister wives, but reality. Smiling visitors, civic functions, her own smiling face at last. Christine came by regularly, with her kids in tow. Janelle provided her with a space to use as a business office. The connection that they had re-established was no longer about communing marriage. It was now about shared strength. One afternoon, a reporter came to interview Meri for a documentary. After all of it, he asked, "Do you forgive Kody?" Meri smiled gently. "Forgiveness isn't for him. It's for me. I forgave hate the day I left that courtroom behind." She sat in silence for a moment, gazing out the window. "I don't want him to hurt. I want him to understand. Because only when you confront yourself can you know who you truly are." Robin's regret somewhere else. Robin lived unobtrusively, out of the camera's sight. She had lost her house, her money, and much of her privacy. In a subdued letter she never wrote, she wrote, "I believed in you, Kody. I thought you were creating a kingdom of love, but you constructed walls. Walls that imprisoned us, not protected us. Perhaps I shall never be forgiven, but at least the truth is revealed. And perhaps that is sufficient." She put the letter in a box with the old wedding ring. Christine's peace. Christine began a support group for women escaping abusive relationships. She called it the Courage Circle. Every week, she spoke her truth. Not gossip, but recovery. Pain doesn't equate to weakness, she explained one night. It means you lived through something strong. And if you're still here, that means your story isn't finished yet. Kody's last stand. Months after, a viral video emerged. It featured Kody alone, recording on his phone. He spoke in a low, weary tone, a shadow of the man he once was. "They say I was the villain," he started. "Perhaps I was. Perhaps I forgot what was important. But one day, the world will hear my story. Until then, I will hold to my faith, even if no one holds to faith in me." The video cut off sharply, its vision blurring to black. It received millions of views, but few comments were sympathetic. The world had already forgotten. The final scene. Freedom. Meri sat alone by a fire one night at the Phoenix House, reading letters from supporters who drew strength from her tale. Christine and Janelle came to join her, laughing, sipping tea, the light of the fire dancing in their eyes. The night sky twinkled outside, peaceful, boundless, free. Meri smiled gently and breathed, "We finally found peace." Christine nodded, "And we managed to do it without him." They were all quiet for a moment. The kind of quiet that was no longer heavy or painful. It was the quiet of peace, closure, and freedom.